Hey everybody, B-Sans here, and as you probably will know from the title of the video, today I'm going to be reading a book. I know that sounds boring, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read a book, and not silently. I'm going to read it out loud. I'll do my best. I know in one of my older videos I mentioned doing readings of books. That's what this is. If you're wondering, the ginormous book that I'm waving around that I'm going to read is called Illuminae, the Illuminae Files 01. It is by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I would definitely recommend this book. This is a great book. Let's get straight into it. I'm also going to remove the flappy cover thing so that's not in the way, and it's just going to be the hardcover book. Alright, so let's get right into it. And I'll try to do the best I can for separate voices so you know who's talking and all that sort of stuff. Also, before I start, I should mention that this is not your conventional book. It's not written in chapters or anything. It's written all in different file formats. There's well, this one is an officer memorandum. There's interviews. Let me just flip through here. There's text messaging. There's readings from a AI. There's classified documents. It's not your conventional book. So, I've wasted enough of your time with talking about the book. Let's read it. Don't be surprised if I don't look up at the camera that much. I haven't memorized the book yet. I might, by the time I'm done reading this. Okay. Memorandum 4, Executive Director Frobisher. Also, if you know how to pronounce any of these names, please tell me, because it's questionable. From Ghost ID number 6755-418-1584-1597-610-377-error-error-error continued. Incept 12976. Subject Alexander Dossier. So here's the file that almost killed me, Director. I won't bore you with the tally of databases plundered, light years jumped, or cute sniffling orphans created in its compilation. Our fee already reflects level of difficulty. But this dirt is out there, if you know where to look. Seems your cleanup crews weren't quite as thorough as you like, and your little corporate war isn't quite as secret as you hoped. You'll find all intel we could unearth concerning the Carenza disaster compiled here in hard copy. Where possible, scans of original document are included. Fun times commence with the destruction of the Carenza colony 1 year ago today, and proceed chronologically through events on battle carrier Alexander and science vessel Hypatia as best as we can reconstruct them. All visual and audio data are included in original form along with written transcripts. All typographical and graphical anomalies are present in the original files. Commentary from my team is marked by paperclip icons. Some written materials were censored by the UTA and had to be reconstructed by our comtext, though profanity remains censored as per your instructions. Sure, the story kicks off with the deaths of thousands of people, but God forbid there be cussing in it, right? The Illuminae Group. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. From Orwell. Briefing note. The following are extracts from debriefing interviews with the subjects of this dossier, Katie Grant and Ezra Mason. The interviews were conducted shortly after the evacuation of Carenza. Incept 13075. Now, the interviewers, I'm just going to give a British voice because, I don't know. Tell me about yesterday. Katie Grant. I was in class when it started. This is going to sound stupid, but I broke up with my boyfriend that morning, and he was right there on the other side of the room. I'm staring at the window and coming up with all the things I should say to the jerk when these ships fly right overhead and all the windows start shaking. Did you know something was up? No, you don't jump straight to an invasion. The Krenza settlement wasn't exactly legal, but we still got traffic around the mine and refinery. I figured it was an ore carrier coming in too low and went back to plotting my idiot ex's downfall. When did you become aware of the invasion? That would be when all the sirens started screaming. Some bright spark, who's probably dead now, sounded the spaceport alarms. The Defiant, that was our WUC protection ship, had transmitted an alert to let us know unfriendly people with big guns had arrived. And how do you know the Defiant transmitted a warning? I'm good with computers. I wanted to know what was going on at the port, so I took a look. You evacuated at that stage? You make it sound way more organized than it was. How was it? All kittens and rainbows, apart from the screaming and explosions. How did you make it out? I'm a lateral thinker, meaning you used your computer, meaning I broke open a window. Oh. I had a truck in the parking lot. I borrowed my mom's because I didn't want to have to take the tube home with him. Having the truck there saved my life. I saw one of the teachers in the lot, and this chunk of metal came screaming in from the sky, and... Miss Grant. I had this moment when I thought I left the keys in my desk, and I pulled apart my bag and threw stuff everywhere. I guess I knew I wouldn't need any of it again. I guess I knew I wouldn't need any of it again. Isn't that weird? But I found the keys at the bottom and jumped in. And just as I start the engine, I look across and he's standing right there, staring at me. I swear. Hold on, the survivor list is refreshing. What was the name you were after? Ezra Mason. We have him. He's on the Alexander. Katie Grant. Inaudible. Now, this is cutting to Ezra Mason's interview. Are you okay to continue, Mr. Mason? I'm alright. My shoulder hurts. I'll have an orderly bring you some more meds. You were saying about your escape from the school. Never seen anything like it. Just this crush of people screaming. Teachers, students, I mean, we knew each other. Colony that isolated, everyone pretty much knows everyone. But it was like they all just lost it. I remember getting pushed along in the mob and wondering why the hallway was soft under my boots. And then I realized what I was walking on. So how did you get out? I'm 6'5", played point defense on the school G-ball team. One time I hit this receiver so hard they had to ID him with DNA. Where did you go after the first missile strike? Everyone was headed for the tube station, but I figured a tin can in an underground ice tunnel was the last place you'd want to be with bombs going off. So, wait, you people had a subway system? I thought the settlement was illegal. Jump, the Krenza mine operated undetected for 20 years. Whole families live there. You know how far from the core we are, right? Maybe further than you might think. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm sorry. You were saying about the subway? Yeah, right. Basically, I didn't want to risk it down there, so I lit out through the fire escape. Doubled back into the parking lot, which might not have been the best plan since I didn't have wheels. And I'm looking around, the sky's raining fire, and I'm still freezing because the wind chill on Krenza could hit 40 below on a bad day. And there she was. Who? My ex-girlfriend, who dumped me maybe 3 hours before. So that was, awkward. And what did you do? Well, I figured there was a good chance she'd just run me over if I stood in front of the truck. So I knocked on the window and said something like, "Lovely day for a drive." And at that point, this southeastern anti-missile battery got vaporized by what I assume was a missile. So maybe you might want to note in your report that those things don't, stop missiles. So she let you in? She let me in. I guess she figured she didn't hate me enough to let me get X'd out by a Baytech kill squad. She still had to think about it for a minute, though. How did you know Baytech was behind the attack? I think the biggest giveaway was the huge Baytech logo on the warship hovering overhead. It had dropped out of the clouds and was Xing out the rest of the defense silos by then. By warship, do you mean the Baytech Dreadnought Lincoln? Yeah, that's them. There's a swear word, I'm not sure what to do. Blanks. I'll just say blank whenever there's a swear word. Wait, can I swear on this thing? So what... Back to Katie's interview. So what happened next? We took off out of the parking lot like we were in a chase scene. Some moron had parked blocking the exit, but the truck was all-terrain, so we rammed it. What was it like outside the school? There was a lot of explosions and a lot of dead people. Dead civilians who worked for a blanking mining company. I mean, imagine you're an interstellar corporation, right? You discover an illegal mining op run by one of your competitors. Do you A, report it to the UTA and laugh as the fines roll in, or B, jump in an attack fleet and X out every man, woman, and child on the planet? What the hell was Baytech thinking? What you and I need to do is focus on what happened on Carenza. Gathering intel on the attack is the best thing we can do to help right now. I can't believe this. Miss Grant. Okay, fine. We took the main arterial, and Ezra turned on the radio. For a second I thought the idiot was looking for the right soundtrack or something. But there was an emergency broadcast up. They were telling us to get to the spaceport, and our research fleet was going to send down shuttles to ferry us all up to orbit. So you turned for the spaceport? Yeah, I turned on the radio to maybe find some getaway music, but there was an emergency broadcast telling everyone to hit the port for evacuation, so that's what we tried to do. But there was cars everywhere, and some truck had overturned on this strip. Katie nearly flipped us, and when I offered to drive, she called me a very bad word. I see. I can repeat it if you want, but that's fine, Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason is my dad, and you still won't tell me why I can't see him. We need you properly debriefed before you have any civilian contact, Mr. Mason. I mean Ezra. Civilian contact. Wow. He's my father, chum. You guys still have fathers, right? Or does everyone in the Great United Terran Authority get grown in a vat nowadays? Why don't you just tell me what happened next? Baytech blew the blanking spaceport. That's what happened next. Popped a half-dozen missiles and turned it into a smoking hole in the ice. I played G-ball with one of the ground crew guys. Rob Flynn, Burton, our next door neighbor, he worked the quarantine base. There's this girl, Jodie Kingston. I knew her since 8th grade. She worked the port comms rig. She was... Ezra? Wow, I just realized. She was the first girl I ever kissed. Do you need a minute? No, I need to get this done. Once the spaceport was gone, it was hard to know where to head. Mostly we were just dodging explosions. The ground was shaking, and at first I thought it was the missiles hitting. Then I realized the impacts were cracking the ice shelf under the colony's foundations. Do you have a background in geology? I'm 17, of course I know. But there was these huge cracks opening up in the ground, big enough to lose a car down. And if you ask how I know that, I saw it happen. There were kids in the back. So you were driving through the city, and what happened next? Ezra wanted to find his father. He worked at the refinery, but I told him we couldn't get through the crowd that'd be streaming out of there. His dad's a big guy, like Ez. I told him they'd all be evacuating together, and we had to trust him to keep his feet. If we went in there, someone might have jacked the truck, and then we'd be screwed. I saw a woman pull this guy off a quad bike and take off on it with her kid. I saw a security officer shooting a guy trying to climb into the back of his pickup. We weren't going to make it as far as the refinery. I wanted to go for my mom instead, and my cousin Asha. My dad was off-station, or off-world, I should say. He works rotation on Jump Station Heimdall, so it was just Mom and me. She's a pathologist, and so she did research and worked at the med center. Asha was training there. Do you need me to look up your mother's name on the list? No, she made it out. She's here on the Hypatia. I saw her before my interview. And your cousin? No, she didn't. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, did Ezra see reason? Did you go to find your mother? We started. Ezra's mom isn't around, so mine had just spent a year feeding him. I think she was more upset about the breakup than anyone. We were heading for our lab, and by that time there were people in the streets, riding in all-terrains, some on quad bikes, folks on foot. The ground was cracking, and there were trunks breaking off buildings. And all the time there's this huge Baytech ship in the sky, pounding our defenses with missiles. Shuttles were lifting off with civvies evacuating. It was so loud that I thought my ears were bleeding. And over the top of all of that, Ezra chooses then to start criticizing my driving. It's hard to believe you guys broke up. You have no idea. Anyway, that was when half the Cineplex fell on our truck. Cutting back to Ezra's interview. Wait, what? I don't know how long I was unconscious for. I came to and thought the sky was covered in spider webs. And then I realized I was looking through the smashed windshield, and we're buried under half a building. The truck is scrapped, Katie's next to me, and there's blood all over her face, and I couldn't find a pulse. So I dragged her out of the wreckage and started to give her mouth-to-mouth, and that's when she slugged me, Your Honor. She hit you? Yeah, right in the face. Good shot, too. I don't know. She thought I was trying to kiss her. She'd hit her head. She was messed up. So we're gearing up to start yelling at each other, and then we realized the sky is full of Cyclone fighter ships, so I figured the cavalry must have arrived. Could you still see the Lincoln? No, but we could see that the refinery had been hit. It was covered in this... I don't know. It's hard to describe. It was like sort of like a mist, but it was like black. Creeping in the air real slow like molasses. Not smoke. It was something else. You said your father worked at the refinery. Yeah, so of course I want to go look for him. And Katie still wants to go find Mrs. Grant. And the glacier is still cracking open and the sky is on fire. And I think that I can see Baytech ground troops in the distance. And then I said it. Cutting back to Katie. What did he say? He said, you picked a hell of a day to dump me, Cades. Cutting back to Ezra. You honestly said that? Yeah, so all hell breaks loose and Katie's yelling at me, and I'm yelling back. All the stuff that had been building up for the last year and boiling just under the skin. Like, I loved her. I love her. But she had this way of just... Yeah, it was so stupid. The world is ending all around us and we're screaming about college applications and commitment and like... I mean, can you believe that? You're 17, right? Almost 18. Then yes, I believe it. Cold, chum. Real cold. So what happened next? I took off. She told me I was being crazy, but I was just furious. And my dad is all I have left, so yeah. Ran toward the refinery, burning cars and trash buildings everywhere. I saw a cyclone crash into an apartment block right in front of my face. Felt the heat on my skin. I was just keeping low and trying to get closer to the plant, but there were BT troops all over. Big, armor-plated goons in winter camo, carrying guns you could kill a glaciosaur with. I didn't really have a plan. I just needed to find my dad. Didn't know what I was going to do once I hit that fog, but turned out that wouldn't be a problem. And why's that? Well, they shot me. Cutting back to Katie. They shot him? I couldn't believe it either. Those blanks should have got in line. They're not the ones who had to put up with his... You said you parted ways at that stage. How did you find out he'd been shot? I started by heading towards Mom's lab on foot, but there were a bunch of Baytech troops in the way. They were putting carriers down on the ground and rolling out soldiers in all-terrain vehicles. I was a little concussed, I'm pretty sure. I know I stopped to puke at one point. I could see shuttles landing out by the labs to do evac, so I just hoped my mom was getting on one of them. I knew I wasn't going to make it across town to her. I wasn't going to make it anywhere without another truck, so I stole one from a Baytech crew. I'm sorry, you what? I am frequently underestimated. I think it's because I'm short. They didn't want it back. Probably. They were pretty busy jumping out of the way. Also, I knew my way around the middle of town. They didn't. I took some sharp corners around the back of the community complex, scraped the truck doors right off. But when I got to the other end, I'd lost them. Our people didn't have weapons to shoot at me with, and theirs thought I was on the same team, I guess. What happened next? There was this filthy black cloud oozing down from Atmo towards the refinery, and I knew that was where Ezra was. I heard it was some kind of bio attack. Is that true? I don't know. You said he was shot, so I guess you found him? On the wrong end of a Baytech platoon. Bleeding everywhere. I kind of freaked out when I saw it all. Were you able to retrieve him? Are there likely to be any prosecutions for stuff that happened down there? They axed out a quarter of my crew. None of us are going to weep if you're telling me you took out a Baytech squad to get to him. Like I said, I'm pretty small, and there was a lot of blood all over everything. I guess my foot slipped on the accelerator. It was hard to reach, you know. I ran a bunch of them down and pulled up right beside him. What did he do? He said, "Hey, Cates." What a catch, seriously. The truck's door was missing, though, so it was easy for him to climb in. And we took off like... And we took off like we were out running a blizzard. We could see shuttles coming down on the outskirts of town, and they didn't have Baytech markings on them, so we risked it. Excuse me again. We were hoping they were evac sent by our research fleet. Cutting back to Ezra's interview. And then what? I don't remember much. I think I made a joke about needing to see her license and registration, because, you know, she just ran over a bunch of... I get it. Right. Then I said, "I'm bleeding," and she said, "Shut up, I'm not talking to you." So I just kind of concentrated on not dying. There was blood everywhere. It hurt so much I think I started laughing. Maybe I was going into shock. Katie was yelling at me to put pressure on it, but it hurt less if I didn't. There were fighters overhead. I remember being really cold. I remember looking at Katie driving, covered in blood, with her hair crusted and with snow and everything. I think I told her she was beautiful. Then, the lights went out. Cutting back to Katie's interview. You made it to the shuttles. We made it close. We were driving a Baytech truck now, so I had to stop and drag Ezra across the ice, so they could see that we were civvies. A couple of the med center staff had made it out there, so they were putting the wounded on shuttles with those guys. And the rest of us into the others. I was screaming my head off trying to get someone to help me with it, help me lift him in. I don't even know how I dragged him. The whole time there were missiles arcing in and exploding around us. Fire starting. I guess if they decided I could yell that loud, I wasn't hurt bad enough to make the wounded shuttle. So they made me leave him with the doc. That's how he ended up on the Alexander and I ended up on the Hypatia. You've been very helpful. Did you see whether or not any missiles hit the refinery? I don't think so, just a black cloud. They wouldn't blow it up, though, would they? I mean, if Baytech wanted the colony gone, they'd have just ratted to the UTA about it. They obviously wanted the hermium we were mining for themselves. They'd hardly destroy the only way they had to process it. We can't speculate yet on what their aim was. I guess if they catch up with us, we can ask them before they blow us to pieces. Cutting back to Ezra's interview. There's just one last thing, Mr. Mason. Can this thing please include those pain meds you promised? We've had yet another update to the casualty lists. I'm afraid we have some news about your father. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. If you like that, punch that like button in the face. Nope, I'm not going to copy Jack's outro. Yeah, feel free to punch the like button in the face, as Jack says. Jacksepticeye, that is. And, I will see everybody, not just dudes, in the next video. See you later. Also, make sure to comment if you want more. Or if you don't want more, or if you like the book, parts you liked about it so far, I'm only on page 18, so... And there's 599 pages. Great! Also, if you want me to put, like, more pages in a video, comment about that too, but that's all for today, guys, and I will see you all later. See ya!